Hello, welcome again to BBC. I'm your host today, guest host. It is again that part of the year when I get to come to Sravasti Abbey and be with the monastics here, venerable monastics here who are really sparkling in their practice with sincerity, effort, and joy that I always look forward to this occasion. And every time I come, I cannot avoid but observe the turkeys. The turkeys, oh yeah, I saw them flying in the morning, flying back into their nest or their branches. And then, yes, one thing that's interesting to me was to watch them use the slope towards the trees as the launching pad to really push themselves and then fly and then perch on those branches. And then I saw them how they didn't use any blankets, no pillows, nothing. They just, and yesterday it was very cold, but still they were able to kind of put through it. Yes, I've seen their camaraderie in going together. Who knows how far that goes? If suppose there is a danger, I still wonder whether they would really stick together and risk their life for the other or not, or just fly away. But nonetheless, they do show camaraderie, some understanding. But then these last few days, something disturbing that I observed about them. They don't share their food. Maybe the mothers share with their kid, with their offsprings early on, but not after they are matured enough. And of course, among the mature ones, they don't share. Like they are very fascinated, they really seem to relish apples. But whoever gets an apple would just really be noticed by others when they peck on it. And when they have the apple on the ground, everyone would come and try to get it. But once they get it in their mouth, it's so strange. They do have some discipline. Nobody bothers that person, bothers that turkey. But then as soon as it drops it down to kind of peck at it, then others try to get it. But they don't share. Hopefully one day when they see the monastics here sharing their food every now and then, how they let go of their food, they can get some clue that maybe that's one thing that they can do. Or maybe some instincts remain in them in their next life to be able to pick on that. But one thing, I really wondered whether through the evolutionary time they have evolved as much or not. And thinking about them, particularly in terms of improving themselves, they don't seem to really, day after day, when they go about their business, they very much do the same thing. They eat, defecate, slave, come back the same day, the next day, do the same thing. In terms of internal development, whatnot, I don't think they get any kind of improvement. Thinking about them, then we begin to realize how precious human birth is. In a way, from an evolutionary point of view, we are at a very turning point. Long time ago, until recently, all animals that have been through the evolutionary process have been more or less driven by the biological drives, the instinctual impulses, kind of very much stayed at that and then be kind of driven like that with no sense of kind of taking charge of themselves and then kind of really making the most of their time. But what has happened is, so more or less driven by the natural selection, survival of the fittest, always on the urge to do something differently, to outshine others, and to really be in that struggle. And every now and then be driven by nothing but their biological pulls, biological drives, and then their instinctual impulses. But what has happened evolutionarily is that recently our brain, particularly from among the many species, human brain has evolved. So much so that now something called neocortex, which is the most latest development in the human brain, which particularly happens at the prefrontal cortex area with several layers, 6, 7 of them, which are very crucial in self-reflection, self-improvement, whatnot. So we are very lucky to have born at this point of evolution, that we have this ability to reflect on and then be a change for ourselves, for others. So in a way, natural selection has evolved in such a way that now we, those who are supposed to have evolved through that, have the capacity to rebel against that very process. And thus, it is through this evolution of this brain, that now we have the capacity of looking into ourselves, being mindful, and kind of exercising restraints against those same biological drives and instinctual impulses. And thus, it seems like now, very soon, we could get off the hook of even the evolutionary drives and evolutionary underpinnings. I very much hope that next time when we come back to life, we might even come to an evolutionary stage where the brain would have really developed even further, so that we could pick up from where we have left and then develop further. So to further express our assertion, freedom from the hooks of the evolutionary forces, so much so that eventually we could be off the hook from the evolutionary drives, and thus not to be subjected to the drives, processes of natural selection anymore. In the meantime, I think as we make use of our evolutionarily developed product, yet at the same time capable of now rebelling against evolutionary process, our turkey friends may pick up tidbits and bits of how we are capable of really managing our conduct and kind of turning things around, rather than be just merely driven by them, so that they get some clues of how things could be turned around. Maybe this will leave some seeds in them that next time they come back as humans and start their journey to a definite release from the forces, evolutionary forces, that kind of anchors them to the same drive for more and more and more with no end, that just merely sets in motion the perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction. Hopefully, we have come in the evolutionary time in such a right time that now we have the possibility of asserting our freedom from the underpinning clutches of evolution and be completely, fully awakened beings who can now turn the clock back on the evolution, maybe for others also. Thank you so much. Oh, before I stop, let me not forget what my colleague, broadcaster, always uses his signature way of ending his program by saying, be well, do good work, stay in touch. Rather, I would want to expand on that. Be well by developing love, compassion, and wisdom at the base of oneself. And do good work that comes out of that place of compassion and wisdom blended together. And yes, never, ever stray away from fellow human beings, not even from our turkeys, that we have so much to learn from. Stay in touch and be open. As I say, they never, ever stop teaching us. And finally, please don't forget to tell others to tell others about this BBC program which broadcasts precious human news. Thank you. Maybe see you next year around the same time.